Welcome everyone. In this video, I show you how to drive the DM8BA10 display using a CH32 microcontroller. This video belongs to my CH32 tutorial series, so I explain everything in detail and I show you how I built up the library from first principles. Earlier, I introduced the firmware for OLED displays, but this time I show a different display that operates with segments instead of pixels. This specific display has 10 digits, and each digit consists of 16 segments. Furthermore, there are 9 separator dots that can be used both as a decimal or a thousand separator, depending on the style of how we display numbers on the display. This large flexibility allows us to use the display both for numbers and characters. So both text and numerical values can be shown on the display. I will display numbers and text locally generated on the microcontroller, as well as received via the serial terminal. So as I mentioned in the beginning, the display has 10 digits, and each digit consists of 16 segments. There are 3 vertical and 3 horizontal zones, and each zone contains 2 segments. So this is 12 segments already. The other 4 come from the 2 diagonal zones, where each zone contains 2 segments each. The segments are driven by a TM1622 chip. This is a dedicated LCD driver chip. It has 32 x 8-bit RAM, which is used to store the data of the segments that we want to display. The data is sent to the chip via a simple serial interface. The serial interface is managed by 3 pins: CS, WR, and data. The CS pin is used to initialize the serial interface and to terminate instructions and/or data transmission. It must be pulled low to allow communication with the TM1622 chip. The WR pin is the write clock input pin. On each rising edge of WR, the data on the data pin, basically the state of the data pin, is written into the RAM of the chip. Finally, the data pin is the serial input or output pin. Setting this pin to low or high sets the data bit that is used in the chip. In fact, the chip itself has more communication pins, but they are not exposed on this specific display's board. In this example, I use the CH32V003F4P6 chip to drive the display. The display does not require super fast communication or a certain strict protocol like I2C or SPI, so we just have to toggle the WR, CS, and data pins to manipulate the segments of the display. The timing can be fairly relaxed as long as the pulses are sent to the device in an orderly manner. First, we have to create a function that transfers bits to the LCD driver chip from the microcontroller. Based on the above mentioned timing chart, the control sequence can be bitbanged. First, all 3 pins are set to high. This can be done already when we initialize the circuit. Then, CS is pulled low to initiate the transaction, and then the rest of the transfer can be wrapped in a for loop that iterates as many times as many bits are in the data to be transferred. Next, we pull the WR low before putting the next bit into the data line. This follows the datasheet's requirement, which says that the chip latches the content of the data on the rising edge of WR. So then, based on whether we have an LSB first or an MSB first data chunk, we shift the data in or out by 1 bit and toggle the data pin accordingly. In LSB mode, if the lowest bit is 1, the data pin is pulled high, otherwise it is driven low. In MSB mode, it is a bit trickier. We mask the highest bit by considering the number of total bits, and then we check if the bit is 1 or 0. Then we set the data pin accordingly. It is important to discuss why we need LSB first and MSB first modes. It is due to how the TM1622 chip expects data. Address bits are A5 to A0 order, but data bits are in D0 to D3 order. So the addresses must be sent as MSB first data, and the data must be sent as LSB first. On the microcontroller, both data and addresses are stored in the same format, but they must be shifted to the display in a different order. Finally, after some delay, the WR pin is pulled back to high, and after another short delay, the code jumps back to the top of the iteration again and starts to transfer the next bit by toggling the WR and data pins accordingly. You might notice that I use delays, so it is a blocking code. But it blocks just for a few microseconds, plus this demonstration focuses more on understanding the communication protocol of the display and not on implementing a non-blocking display driver. The code is freely available on my GitHub, so if you want, you can download it and convert it into a non-blocking code. After we are able to send data to the display, we need to figure out how to display intelligible characters on it. With each data transfer, we can send a 4-bit data package, also called a nibble. This data transfer is the same as before. We just reuse the previously created sendBits function and organize the lines into a new function that helps us to send data to the display. First, we have to understand the concept of addressing the segments of the display. Each digit consists of 16 segments. This means that within a digit, there are 4 nibbles. Within each of these 4-bit packages, we just set the values to 1 wherever we want the segment to be on, and to 0 wherever we don't. This immediately suggests that if we write all segments with zeros, we can erase the display. To draw a full character, we need another function that orchestrates the data transfer for 4 nibbles. This is just a function that takes the position of the digit and the 16-bit value that represents a character. So, this function is just a piece of code that bundles 4 write nibble functions together. First, based on the selected digit, we fetch the base address. This is one of every 5th nibble addresses, since every 5th nibble belongs to a new character. Then, it is really just 4 subsequent write nibble functions, where the base address is incremented for each nibble, and the data is shifted and masked according to the data that must be placed in the nibble that is being addressed. The more interesting part is the creation of the characters. As I said, the working principle is fairly easy. We light up certain segments among those 16 segments to visualize a certain letter or number. I did this manually, and to speed up the process, I made an Excel sheet for it. The concept of the Excel sheet is the following. I drew a block of cells that more or less resembles the 16 segments within a character. Then I added a conditional formatting to each segment so they turn green when I put an X character in the cell, and they turn white when the cell is empty. This helps me to draw the characters very quickly and to get a visual feedback on the expected appearance of the character. To know which segment is which number, I had to create a function that walks through the 16 segments and lights them up one at a time. I simply drew a dummy display segment in my notebook and noted down each segment's serial number. Then I assigned it to my Excel table. Then I made a table that consists of 2 rows. The top row is just columns from 0 to 15, and the bottom row is filled in based on which segment is active. This creates a bridge between the visual and the numerical representation of the segments. Finally, based on the active segments, the Excel sheet generates a decimal and hexadecimal sum of the active segments. This number represents the drawn character, and this is the number that we split up into 4 nibbles by shifting and masking it and send to the display. Finally, there is one last thing. We need to display the decimal points. This was a bit tricky to figure out because I had no idea how they are addressed. Then, I did some bit walking beyond the 0x28 address, and I found that at 0x29, 0x2b, and 0x2d addresses, we can manipulate the decimal dots. Under one address, we can activate one dot at a time. But we can have multiple dots on the display at the same time, since we can use them as 1000 separators or something similar. Similar to my Bitbanged OLED library, I made a font array that contains the numbers from 0 to 9, all the capital letters, and some symbols as well. This font array matches the regular ASCII character set, so it is very easy to call characters from it with a few lines of code. However, certain characters are hard or impossible to display on this display, so I skipped them and replaced them with empty space. For example, the N symbol is not super easy to draw with the available segments, and it is not a very often used character. So I replaced its hex code with 0x0000, which is the space symbol. And I followed the same logic for the rest of the difficult characters in order to maintain the structure and the order of the ASCII character set table. When we print an actual character using this table, we pass a character to a function that returns the corresponding position of the font in the font array. The first character that is used from the ASCII table is the space, whose code is 0x20. But in our font array, it is located in the first place, or 0th index. So, to convert the character to a font index, we just need to subtract 0x20 from it. As I said, the font array maintains the order of the original ASCII table, so for any further characters, this strategy works fine. Then, the fetched 16-bit value is just passed to the write digit row function that breaks the number down into 4 nibbles and sends it to the display. Printing a string is done along the exact same lines, but instead of printing just one character, we print multiple characters. So, there is a helper function that iterates through an array that stores the characters of the text that we want to display, and in each iteration, it passes the next character to the display. We can now print text, but this option, on purpose, is not able to print floating point numbers. This is because the character set does not contain any decimal points, but the display has built-in decimal dots. So I decided to separate the floating point number printing into a dedicated function. This function receives the floating point number as a string of characters, and then decides which decimal points should be turned on and prints the number. To be able to handle negative numbers, the first character location, the leftmost block, is reserved for the minus symbol. Either it shows nothing, or it shows a minus symbol. So the first numerical character is printed in the second block from the left side of the display. Based on the string that represents the floating point number, the code decides whether it needs to print a minus symbol or not. Then the function investigates if the string contains a decimal point in the actual iteration. If it does, it determines the address of the decimal point and it prints it on the display. Finally, it checks what the actual numerical character is and it prints it in the corresponding position. In the meantime, the function carefully keeps track of each position, so the numbers, the decimal point, and the optional minus symbol all end up at their designated place on the display. So this is all I wanted to show about the display and its driving logic. I wrote a very detailed article which can be found on my website. Please check the link in the description. Also, if you like these videos and find them helpful, please consider becoming a channel member. Your support helps me to dedicate more resources to make similar videos in the future. I hope you like this video, I hope you learned something, and see you in the next video.